Hey, what's up? This is Will and Willpower Astrology, continuing my North Node series in the birth chart with the North Node in Cancer. Now, we just had the North Node in Cancer very recently, so it's not coming around again for another almost 20 years. So we just had this. I had two different videos on YouTube talking about this. I made a number of posts on the website about the North Node in Cancer transit, which was from November 6th of 2018 until May 4th of 2020. So I talked about North Node in Cancer a lot, the transit, but we're going to talk about in the birth chart. So if you're a little baby that was born in 18 to 20 and you can understand English, comment below. I would love to hear your analysis of how the North Node in Cancer has worked for you. Anyway, so it's just happened. Let's go back through the last recurrences. So the very tail end of the Gen X crew. Oh, no. Let's not skip. So we had the Gen Z kids. It was May 8th of 2000 to October 12th of 2001. It was September 20th of 1981 to March 15th of 1983. So the tail end of the Gen X kids. Skip the millennials, Gen Z kids in there. Going back to the very, very tail end of the baby boomers to the beginning of Gen Xers, it's December 22nd, 1962 to August 25th, 1964. Then we had May 11th, 1944 to December 2nd, 1945. Then we had October 26th, 1925 to April 16th, 1927. Then going back even further, we had March 29th of 1907 to September 26th of 1908. So those are some really crazy auspicious times, especially in American history, that I have noted in those other videos. But what we're talking about is, what does it mean if you were born during those times, and like how does that going to affect you? So first of all, the lunar nodes are where the moon's orbit crosses around the Earth's orbit. So where the moon crosses in front of the Earth's path around the sun, that's the North Node. Where the moon passes behind the Earth's orbit is the South Node. So basically what we're here to do is to master our tendencies to live in the South Node. It's our comfort zone. It's kind of like what we're carrying with us from past lives. It's what we're already kind of preternaturally in tune with energetically. It can be our superpowers, or it can be, if we're too comfortable in that South Node energy, we can be stagnant in life. We don't go anywhere. We don't try to do new stuff, because we're supposed to master those things and then move into the North Node of what's outside our comfort zone, of things that don't come natural to us, of stuff we have to learn while we're in this incarnation to achieve kind of our true soul's path, right? So bloop, let's talk about the South Node in Capricorn first. So if you have the North Node in Cancer, then automatically your South Node, what you're coming from, is an energy in a past life or in your childhood possibly, where you had a lot of Capricorn energy. So Capricorn energy is associated with like the 10th house of public life. Capricorn is very concerned about reputation. Like Capricorn, symbol of Capricorn is like a mountain. Like, so when people are struggling with spirit, they go to they struggle and climb the mountain and all that kind of thing, right? So similarly, Capricorn likes to be a pillar of the community. Like they're concerned about being like well respected within their peer groups, because it's in your 10th house. That's how you represent yourself to the public. That's how you represent yourself out to the world. The 10th house means business. It means how you're going to do business. It means your kind of like career path and legacy and what you want to do and work on, all that kind of Capricorn stuff. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So it's like talking about legacies and time commitments and like, not just that I'm doing stuff, not that I do this thing, but it's all the stuff that you do over your life. It's your pattern and your habits over your whole lifetime. So, like, it can be really heavy because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, because you're always thinking about, I think that you naturally feel responsible, especially for what's going on around you. So this could come from a past lifetime where you had to be a leader, where you had to be the one that was calling the shots, that was like, we're doing this, we're doing that, everybody get in line, that type of thing. Or it could come from a childhood that was a very structured environment, or like military brats or something, where you're changing locations all the time, something like that, right? Where we have this really structured existence and everything has to be like that, and so we're always doing all this stuff, and how you guys better pick up your weight because I'm always working hard, and it's this thing about responsibility. So people that are born with that energy, it's like you feel like you have to go be the boss of everything all the time. So even if nobody asked you, you're like, well, we could do this and we could do that, and what are you doing? How come we're not doing this stuff? And it's like, maybe you don't need to worry about that. We'll get to that. So with a very structured South Node in Capricorn, that's going to be, our focus is always on what the public thinks of us. Our focus is always on, like, well, what does it look like? And what is it? And I think what happens is we get lost in keeping up the Joneses. We get lost in keeping up appearances. And a lot of times the internal work is not really focused on, because feelings can seem trivial. Feelings are just whatever. It's getting in the way of business. It's getting in the way of like the stuff I want to do. You know what I mean? But ultimately, when we neglect ourselves, when we neglect our own emotional well-being to go take care of stuff that we feel responsible for by other people, then that's when you're going to run into a problem with your health. You're going to run into a problem with, like, how come nobody can see how hard I'm working or whatever? It's because you're not showing your vulnerability. So we'll get to that. The animal totem for both Capricorn, the South Node that you're working with, and Cancer, the North Node that you're working with, are these amphibious creatures, right? So to me, the Cancer Capricorn opposition is some of the most, you can tell. Like a lot of the other pushes and pulls are going to be very similar types of personalities, or you can see the opposites come together. But like Cancer and Capricorn to me is like, could not be more. You can't spot a Cancer and a Capricorn easier. I don't know how to say it other than that. But like, and also the energy of Cancer and Capricorn. Capricorn is very public and Cancer is very internal, right? But they both are represented by these animals. Capricorn's not just the goat, it's the sea goat. So it has its tail and can swim down to the bottom of the ocean. But then it also, as the goat, is climbing up to the top of the mountain, right? So it's on the land and in the water. And then Cancer's animal totem is also on the land and in the water. It's the crab, but it's just a little dibby on the beach. And so whereas the goat this mythical creature can go down to the bottom of the ocean and go up to the top of the mountain. The crab is much more in its little tiny environment, in its little biome. Do you know what I mean? So in this way, both signs relate to the emotional quality of, sometimes the tide is really high and you're full of emotions. This is like with Cancer and the moon. The tide is really high and you're full of emotions, right? But then it goes away and we're in less emotions. So I feel like I'm saying this weird, but like, anyway, Capricorn can sink down to the bottom of the depths of depression. Capricorn can be in that watery environment. Capricorn, because it's so heavy and takes responsibility for everything, even if it's not their issue, they're like, oh, I'm gonna, so they can sink to the bottom, but they really can sometimes linger in that, and they can be like, no one's as deep as me, no one's as dark as me, oh God. And so then at the same time, they can like forget all that, and then in their ambition, boop, 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 go climb to the top of the mountain and be like, and just forget all about that they were just so sad. So we're going away from that. We're going away from like business time. We're going away from lingering in the depths of depression or climbing. We're just trying to live in the salty tide. We're just trying to we're not trying to worry about all that stuff. We're not going to the top of the mountain. We're not going to the bottom of the ocean. We're just living in we're just looking for our little meal. We're looking for maybe another shell to climb into. We're going away from that public life responsibilities, which is not to say that you will not have responsibilities to take care of. But you already know how to do that type of thing. What you need to learn how to let go of is control, because as a South Node Capricorn, you're going to want to be in control of everything, but you don't really have control of stuff. As a North Node in Cancer, you're going to have to learn that you sink, it's like the moon. Sometimes it's a new moon, it's a low tide, we're just feeling like parched. It's like, oh, there's no, but then when it gets to be a full moon and the tide is rising and we're up to our necks and we're like, oh my God, and that full moon is making everybody crazy like a werewolf, you're going to experience these highs and lows and this tidal, this thing coming in and out. And I think that for a long time, you're going to be like, what's wrong with me? How come I'm this? And how come I'm that? And how come I'm... But once you learn that cycle and once you learn that flow, that sometimes I have less to give, and then sometimes it's going to be like a lot, and then sometimes it's going to come back, and you're going to figure out, I can be in my little tide pool and I can just kind of figure out all this stuff. Cancer is looking for 4th house as opposed to that 10th house of public life, Capricorn, ambition and planning and, making all this stuff happen. 4th house Cancerian is more just about your own little soul and your nourishment and kind of like, am I doing okay? Let's check in, not with my body. It's not so much about what I feel like. It's more about what I feel like internally. So, and it's not even about how I feel with you. I can't explain it to you. It's taken off all the layers of that. Like there's this expression that I think I've said a couple of times here on the channel. I think it's some type of proverb. I want to say it might be like a Japanese proverb. Don't quote me on that, but it's this concept that there are 3 masks that we wear to the world. 1 is the face that everybody sees, just the public. 2 is the mask that you take off that mask, and then this is the mask that your close friends and family see, right? And then you take off that mask, and there's just your own mask, and it's who nobody else can see. It's just who you are to yourself. Nobody else can see that. And that's what that 4th house Cancerian energy is. It's really where in the development of the chart and in the development of your life, we go from being like a kid to being like a teenager and a young adult, where the world is ahead of us, we're full of promise, and we also develop our own emotional foundation. We develop our own emotional stability apart from our parents. We emotionally individuate from our parents, and we become our own soul. We become our own. That's what the energy of Cancer represents. It's that individuality, that vitality of not just my own body, not just my own, who am I to you guys, but my own, my own impulses, my own gut feelings, my own, this is not just what I think or my opinion, or I'm going to tell you what the words are, Gemini. This is what I feel like. This is who I am underneath it all, coming out from the subconscious and all that shit, right? So what we're going away from in this North Node, it's not so much about what it's going to look like to everybody else. It's about how it feels to you. So it's not to say that we're not going to have responsibilities, and it's not to say that you can't be like a public leader and go out and have responsibilities like that. But you're going to find that until you do that internal work of digging deep into your own emotions, and sometimes those are not going to be fun emotions. Ask a Cancerian person. They're constantly paranoid, constantly what's that meme? You know that a meme of that little old grandma, and she's pulls out a gun. That's Cancerian. They're oh yeah, I'll snip you, But really, they're only snipping onto stuff if they're They really want it. You know, they're more than like Taurus, which is about the security of, okay, I have enough food to eat, I have a roof over my head, material things. Cancer is about emotional security. So cancers are seeking out emotional security. So it kind of seems like cancers, especially when they're young, they have this kind of like loud phase. And you can definitely tell a Cancerian person is excited because the volume of their voice goes up. And for you, it's, can you be honest in your own emotions? It's not about what these other people think. Can you fully express your own feelings? Can you laugh if you want to laugh? Can you cry if you want to cry? Because that's your journey in this life, is to get in touch with your own self, how you feel. Fuck all the rest of the bullshit. It's not about responsibility to anybody else. And it's not about anybody else. It's about, sometimes you're going to need to just cry, and you're going to not know how to do that. And that's what you're here to figure out. Because when you allow your feelings to come, instead of trying to master them and control them and like micromanage them like a Capricorn wants to do, you need to just allow that wave to crash over you and go, okay, whoa, I'm a little crab. I'm in the surf. I'll eventually get my bearings. I'll get down to the bottom of the ocean. I'll go crawl back to my home. But sometimes I'm going to tumble around in the waters for a little bit. And sometimes when that tide goes out, I'm going to, you know what I mean? So it's really navigating the dry land. It's navigating the water. That's similar to the South Node of Capricorn with the sea goat. But it's not to necessarily those depths and extremes. You're going to potentially be really good as a South Node in Capricorn at doing stuff like managing events for other people or whatever, but all that type of thing. You're going to be really good at like organizing stuff, making lists, checking it twice, getting stuff down, packing, organizing, making little, you're going to have a list for everything. But it's not till you start to live in your own body and start to feel like sometimes your water is gonna rise and you're gonna, and then sometimes it's gonna go away and you're gonna feel a little bit like empty. So until you can learn to live in that cycle, because that North Node, Cancer, is ruled by the moon, until sometimes it's gonna be a new moon, you're gonna feel empty, you're gonna feel more like raw and primal and like a struck a raw nerve. And then sometimes you're gonna feel like, I just feel so great. Like you're gonna feel so good that you want to cry. You're gonna feel so bad that you want to cry. You're gonna feel so touched by a butterfly landing on a thing that you want to cry. Like Cancerians are very in touch with their self and their body, and their emotions are very connected to their body. So like, I think for you, if you're denying or stifling or trying to repress emotions, it's going to come out in a body expressed type of way. It's going to come out as, if I'm repressing my emotions, it's going to, like, my body's going to take the brunt of it, or my body's going to express the stress of that. So you're going to have to learn to really take care of your emotions, because that's going to be your like internal temperature of how your health is for your own self. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, Cancer, the moon, is really mother, right? It's mother energy. And it's this time in our life where, you know, and water sign wise, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer is really the maiden. Cancer is the fountain of youth. So even though Cancer is the moon and mother, it's really like subjective, nurturing, you know, yin energy, right? If it's a yin yang, it's the black. It's the yin dark energy. It's nurturing, it's subjective, it's emotional, it's feminine, it's all this type of thing, where we're going away from a Saturn ruled kind of, you know, Capricorn is a female sign, earth sign, but being ruled by Saturn, there is more of that kind of hard edge to it. And we're going away from that. We're going towards soft edges. We're going towards nurturing mom shit. Okay, so Maybe you're called on in this life to learn how to nurture yourself, to learn how to nurture your feelings and what it needs to be, because maybe you come from a background where your feelings were overlooked, or your feelings were not taken into consideration as a thing that needed to be regarded in this moment. So now as an adult, you're learning how to go, what do I need in this moment? What about my feelings? Like, what about me? You know? And that's truly your feelings. Once you learn how to tap into, you don't need to repress your feelings. You don't need to work through your feelings. You can just allow your feelings. Those feelings are now going to guide you towards your North Node. And your North Node is going to guide you towards being way more psychic, being way more vibey, being way more like in tune with the world around you. Like when you can tell, oh, that tide's about to come in. Oh, everybody, let's move, because you're going to be able to sense the waters around you. You're going to be like, Cancer feels things deeply from inside their gut, from the fountain of youth, right? So to me, I always trust Cancerian people's instincts. When they say, something doesn't smell right, I call bullshit. I always go with that. And I always say to people, if you're rocking the moon in the tarot, which, the moon in the tarot, I think is Pisces in the tarot, but or Scorpion, whatever, it doesn't matter. When you're rocking moon energy, you are the one that can give that intuition. Does that make sense? Like, if you're listening to your own intuition, then nothing can guide you wrong. And it's going to seem, especially for you, that if you make a decision based off of how you feel, based off of what looks good on paper, that's going to go against your instincts, because as that North-South node in Capricorn, you want stuff to be on paper. You don't want to risk anything that you're not sure to gain. But a part of this North Node in Cancer is taking an emotional risk, because that's just how you feel. But when you learn how to do that, it's that paradoxical thing that you'll find more success if you trust your subjective feelings and your gut and how you feel about a situation, rather than what it might seem like to the public, or it might seem like on the outside. You're going to have a lot more success once you give up a lot more control and realize that sometimes the tide goes out, sometimes the tide comes in. You're going to have a lot more success when you realize that it ain't that deep. It's just, you ain't got to worry about these highs and these lows. You just got to worry about your little bubble and your little feelings. And once you kind of figure out that simple thing, because you're going to want to do all this other stuff, then you'll be rocking that North Node in Cancer. Blue!